Now we're in Perek Aleph, Mishnah Daled. Now the Mishnah, guys, comes and switches to discuss cases that require what is referred to as a Sanhedrin Ketana, as the lower Sanhedrin, as the lower Sanhedrin. The lower Sanhedrin is a court, is a bezdin of 23 dayanim. A 23 judge court is known as a Sanhedrin Ketana. Why do we call it a Sanhedrin Ketana? A lower court, a lower Sanhedrin, a small Sanhedrin, because this is in contradistinction to a Sanhedrin Gedolah. What is the Sanhedrin Gedolah? The Sanhedrin Gedolah is the Bezin Hagodol of 71 Dayanim, which is the subject of the following Mishnah. This Mishnah here speaks of Bezdin of 23. Dine Nefoshes Be'esrim V'shloisha. All capital cases, all cases in which a person is tried for a crime or for an avera that carries the death penalty, they are judged by a court of 23 dayanim. Capital punishment, crimes or averas that would potentially receive the death penalty is referred to in halacha as dinei nefoshes. Dinei nefoshes, where the person's life could be taken away from him. Chas v'sholom. So, dinei nefoshes be'esrim v'shloisha. All dinei nefoshes are tried by Bezdin of 23. What are these? Aroveya ve'anirba. Aroveya ve'anirba. Be'esrim v'shloisha. Says the Mishnah. Aroveya ve'anirba be'esrim v'shloisha. An animal that is active with a woman and an animal that is passive with a man are adjudicated by a court of 23 dayanim. This we know. Shneimar, says the Mishnah, vehorakta es ha'isha ve'es ha'behema. It says in the pasuk in Vayikra Perek Chaf, pasuk tezvav. It says vehorakta es ha'isha ve'es ha'behema. A woman who approaches any animal for it to mate with her, says the Torah, you shall kill the woman and the animal. So you see that the Torah mentions the animal together with a woman to teach that they have the same halacha, that they have the same law. That just as the woman requires a court of 23 because she is subject to potentially the death penalty, so does the animal. Says the Mishnah Vaito, ve'oimer ve'es ha'behema ta'roigu. As it states, the pasuk says there in pasuk tezvav, a man who lies with an animal shall be put to death, and you shall kill the animal. Here too, by mentioning the animal together with a man, so the pasuk is megale. The pasuk teaches us that since the man requires a court of 23, so does the animal. Look at the Rav. That's what roveya means. V'iska shleisha, there's a hekesh to the isha. My isha be'esrim v'shloisha. Just like the woman has to be adjudicated by a court of 23, af behema be'esrim v'shloisha. The behema too. Ve'oimer, the pasuk says, weiter, v'esa behema ta'roigu. What is that in reference to? Benir vaksiv. Lamadnu roiveya v'nirba. Again, roiveya v'nirba, an animal that is active with a woman and an animal that is passive with a man, be'esrim v'shloisha. Says the Mishnah weiter, I just want to make mention of one footnote here, an important footnote. Well, I'll leave that for a little bit later, okay. Shoer aniskal be'esel v'shloisha. Shoer aniskal has to be adjudicated by a court of 23. What is that? An ox that is to be stoned because it killed a person. Such an ox is judged by a court of 23. How do we know that? Shenemar ashor yisokel v'gam be'olav yumat. Ashor yisokel v'gam be'olav yumat from Parshas Mishpatim. The pasuk says, if an ox gores a man or a woman and the victim dies, the ox shall be stoned, and also its owner shall be put to death. V'gam be'olav yumas. So the Torah mentions the ox together with its owner to teach just as the death of the owner would require a court of 23 were he to commit a sin that carries a death penalty, so does the death of the ox require a court of 23. So simply reading these words of the Mishnah, it seems that the man, the owner of the ox, is chayav, and the ox is chayav misa. It's on the surface, but we have to think a little bit deeper here. Although the pasuk says, and also its owner shall be put to death, v'gam be'olav yumas, it can't possibly mean, listen very carefully to this, it can't possibly mean that the owner is executed for not having prevented his ox from goring. Because al pi halacha, al pi din Torah, a person is only put to death, a person is only executed if he himself kills somebody. B'mezid, b'yoidin, consciously, knowingly. But not if his animal does so. So the pasuk is therefore interpreted v'gam be'olav yumas. It can't mean that we're going to kill the Baal, we're going to kill the owner of an ox that gored a person. Yeah, you killed the ox. You can't kill the person. The person didn't do a ma'aser etzricha. So therefore the pasuk is interpreted as teaching a different halacha. Namely, that the ox has the same law as its owner in that it cannot be sentenced to death except by a court of no fewer than 23 dayanim. That just like a person, just like a human, can't be put to death for anything unless it's a court of 23, this ox also can only be put to death with a court of 23. Okay, again, although the Torah specifies that an ox that killed a person is put to death, the same halacha applies to any kind of animal that killed a person. The Mishnah cites now a three-way machlokes about some especially dangerous animals as to whether a court of 23 is required to sentence them to death. So the Mishnah continues. Azev ve'ari, adoiv ve'anomer ve'abardelas ve'anachash misasan be'esel u'shlosha. A zev, a wolf, an ari, a lion, a dove, a bear, a namer, a leopard, a bardelas, a hyena, nachash, a snake, any one of these living creatures that killed a person, misasan be'esel b'shlosha, their death sentence must be passed by a court, a bezdin of 23, just like the death sentence of an ox that killed a person. Just like the ox that the Torah speaks about. Ki yigach shoer, the Torah says in Mishpatim. Ki yigach shoer, if a shoer gored. Now comes the Mishnah and tells us the Torah lists a shoer because that was common in the fields and so on and so forth. But if any one of these animals, ze'ev, ari, doiv, namer, bardalos, nachash, if they killed anyone, chas v'shalom, misasan ve'esr v'shloisha, misasan ve'esr v'shloisha. The second opinion is Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer says, never mind. Rabbi Eliezer says, Kol ha'koidem la'ogam zocha. Don't wait that this animal is going to kill somebody. You see an animal. Whoever is first to kill these animals has performed a good deed because he prevents them from killing again. They don't need, according to Rabbi Eliezer, to be brought to court and to judged, but may be killed on sight by anyone. According to Rabbi Eliezer, even if the owner had tried to tame the animal, the fact that it killed a person shows that it could not have been tamed, and therefore he should not have kept it in his house, in his premises, in his field to start with. And since he was always forbidden to keep it, says Rabbi Eliezer, he's not viewed as its legal owner, because you're not supposed to keep a wilde chaya, a wild animal, a dangerous animal, an animal that can knowingly cause harm. So therefore, he's not considered, says Rabbi Eliezer, the legal owner, and it has the status of a hefker. It has the status of an ownerless animal, and therefore anyone may therefore kill it, and it need not be tried in court. Now, this machlokes in the Mishnah applies only to an animal that is owned by someone. Everyone agrees that if an ownerless animal kills a person, it may be killed on sight. Important machlokes. And finally, Rabbi Akiva Omer, misoson be'esri v'shloisha. The third opinion is that of Rabbi Akiva, who says that their death sentence, the death sentence of all of these animals, except the snake, which is much harder to tame than any of the others, must be passed by a court of 23. Rabbi Akiva agrees with the first Tana who stated that even if one of these animals kills a person, it still belongs to its owner, and it therefore must be judged by a court. He argues, however, that the snake is different because it is naturally more dangerous than any of the other animals listed in the Mishnah. Regarding a snake, therefore, that killed a person, so Rabbi Akiva sides with Rabbi Eliezer, who rules that whoever kills it first performs a mitzvah because he removes a deadly beast from the world. Uvi'arta ara mikirbecha. When you see something wrong, when you see something evil, when you see something dangerous, when you see something harmful, you have an obligation to remove it from the world.